She's actually one of the names tied up in those lawsuits. Yeah, you've heard me right. This wasn't just some random critic from the sidelines. She's one of the people actively suing the village of Dolton, and guess what? She hasn't seen a single dime yet. And now, out of nowhere, she pops up at a board meeting. What? Suddenly concerned about the village buying the Pope's childhood home. She takes the mic and says, "I don't really know about y'all buying this house. Some of us are still waiting on money." Oh, really? Now it's suddenly an issue. Interesting timing. But before we go too deep into that, you know the drill. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, share this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear where you stand on this whole circus. So here's the setup. The village of Dolton held a board meeting, and the entire spotlight was on one big ticket item. Buying the childhood home of the newly appointed Pope, and not just any Pope, no. This was the first American Pope in history. That's Dolton's brand new claim to fame. For a village that's usually in headlines for corruption, lawsuits, and FBI raids, suddenly they had something historic to market. The meeting was laser-focused on the vote. Why this purchase mattered, what it could mean for Dolton's future, and how the move could transform the town's struggling reputation. Everything seemed on track, speeches polished, arguments lined up. Until, of course, one speaker grabbed the mic and derailed the moment. But to understand her angle, let's rewind. A local reporter laid out the backstory. Dolton had struck a deal with two developers who had bought and renovated the Pope's old home years before he became Pope. They were smart, bought low, fixed it up, then held onto it as an investment. And here's the kicker. On the very same day, roofers from Windy City Construction came out and installed a brand new roof completely free of charge. Out of pocket. No invoice, no billing. Just community pride, volunteer effort, and goodwill. So the house was already looking sharp, already preserved. But despite that, the Dolton Village Board still wanted to move forward with an official purchase. The developers had originally asked for $199,000, modest figure given the Pope's rising global profile. But the price on the table now was expected to be much higher still, under the million-dollar auction dreams they once floated. But nowhere near that bargain basement $199,000. And here's where things already got messy. Dolton had previously threatened to seize the property through eminent domain. That alone raised eyebrows. I mean, eminent domain? For a Pope's house? When every other city on Earth would just slap a historic landmark designation on it and call it a day, that's the usual play. Mark it historic, protect it from demolition, and let the owners keep it. No lawyers, no court fights. But Dolton? Nah, they had to make it complicated. The developers pushed back, insisting the move wasn't even legal, which makes this new deal look like a compromise away to avoid court.
Losses.
And finally let Dolton buy the property clean. And here's the wild part. Tourists were already showing up. Even while the meeting was happening, people were pulling up just to snap selfies outside. This was the house where the Pope grew up with his family in the 1960s and 70s. Dolton officials saw a chance to turn the whole block into a historic district. The vision wasn't just one house. It was a cultural landmark, a money magnet. Then came the moment. A woman stepped up to the mic. From the start, her delivery was shaky. She rambled about random town issues, dropped a few scattered anecdotes, drifted into talk about banks and foreclosures, then circled back to whether the Pope's house would actually generate revenue. It was scattered, unfocused. But through the nervous energy, one message started to peek out. She didn't support the purchase. She dressed it up as curiosity, insisting she was just asking questions, just trying to make sure taxpayers weren't on the hook. But anyone listening closely could tell there was something else simmering beneath the surface. And then boom, she slipped. She admitted it, she wasn't just a concerned citizen. She was one of the people suing Dolton. She hadn't been paid yet. And just like that, her whole argument collapsed into transparency. This wasn't about the Pope's house at all. This was about her money. Suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't a debate about historic preservation. It wasn't about fiscal responsibility. It was a personal grievance aired under the disguise of civic duty. Straight up conflict of interest vibes. Think about it like this. Imagine you lend someone $20. Instead of paying you back, They show up in brand new Jordans, grinning ear to ear. Are you going to clap for their new shoes? No. You're going to roll your eyes and throw out a slick line like, "Do you really need those right now?" That's exactly what was happening here. She stood there trying to convince everyone she cared about taxpayers, when the truth was simple. She just wanted her check. At one point, her nerves got the best of her. She stumbled over her words and blurted, "Hi, I'm coming one of them." What she meant to say? I'm one of the people suing? But her mouth betrayed her. That's what happens when you're up there pretending to be righteous while secretly fighting your own side battle. Because let's be real, at the end of the day, you can't stand in front of the community and preach about responsible spending when you're real. Motivation is waiting on your lawsuit payout. That's not leadership. That's not public service. That's self-interest. Plain and simple. Meanwhile, the bigger picture was clear. Dolton wasn't just buying a house. They were buying a chance to rebrand, to generate tourism, to inject life into a local economy that's been gasping for air. Buy the house, build out the block, maybe even add a boutique hotel. Suddenly, you've got a tourist destination with steady cash flow. And it wasn't just talk. Dolton had already bought another house on the same block to kick off renovations. This wasn't about a single property. It was about momentum. About creating a historic district that could draw thousands. But not everyone wanted that vision. Some people would rather see the neighborhood stay broken, so they can keep filming TikToks of boarded-up houses and cracked sidewalks. That's the real hustle. Keeping chaos alive so nothing changes. So right on cue, this woman dragged her lawsuit into the spotlight. She even admitted she had tried to settle because her case was nearing the 3-year mark. Translation? She wasn't worried about fiscal policy. She was worried about her personal deadline. And that's what made the whole performance fall flat. Because while she was trying to cloak her frustration in community concern, everyone in that room could see the truth. She didn't care about whether the Pope's house brought in revenue. She didn't care about historic districts or tourism strategies. She cared about one thing: her lawsuit check clearing. And once you see that, the whole speech just reads like noise. Dolton's officials, for all their flaws, at least had a clear business model: tourism. The Pope's house draws visitors. Visitors spend money. Businesses grow. The economy gets oxygen. That's the plan? Her plan? Delay, distract, and guilt-trip the village until her personal payout arrives. And that, my friends, is the difference between vision and vendetta. She claimed it took so much for her to even show up. Oh, really? Did it take courage? Did you just want to stall progress until you get your $40? Because that's exactly what it felt like. That was the energy. She didn't want growth. She wanted her bag. And she wasn't even shy about it. Let's be real, if your entire mission is blocking something that could lift an entire community just because your settlement check hasn't cleared yet, that speaks louder than anything you could possibly say at the mic. She tried to dress it up with emotional lines like, "Real lives matter. We're all human." And everyone in the room looked around, confused. Like, huh? Nobody mentioned race. What does this have to do with the Pope's house? Is this about him being white? Where even did that come from? It was chaos. She clearly hadn't prepped, hadn't organized. This was her big moment to make a point, and instead, she unraveled right there in front of everyone. Then it really went off the rails. She started accusing the police of being procedurous, whatever that even means. Then she rambled about non-due diligence before dropping the wildest claim of all: that ghosts are collecting paychecks. Yes, ghosts. Actual ghosts. I wish I was exaggerating, but no, those were her words. It was full-blown word salad. And all I could think was, "Ma'am, you should have typed this out and rehearsed at least once." Because it was painfully clear this wasn't about the people. It wasn't about the community. This was about her personal frustration. Meanwhile, Dolton is out here trying to move forward, and she wants to slam the brakes until her lawsuit clears. And here's the kicker. The village already admitted they're cleaning up the mess. The real problem was Tiffany Henyard. She left everything so backwards that nobody even knew who was supposed to be paid. Nobody even knew who was supposed to be paid. She made empty promises, shuffled people into positions they never agreed to, and left pure confusion in her wake. Now that she's gone, The new administration is finally sorting it out. So for this lady to waltz in and try to derail progress over a personal payout, that's not leadership. That's entitlement. And you could see it plain as day. Her nerves betrayed her. It was like her brain and her mouth weren't synced up. At one point, she even declared, "I'm coming for my receipts." Ma'am, no. You don't come for receipts. You bring receipts? That's how it works. But instead of evidence, she was tossing out buzzwords like darts, hoping one would stick. Legislative roles, executive powers, and then out-of-nowhere sewers. Yes, sewers. She claimed she had talked to a woman, and now a sewer had moved. Like what? Did the sewer pick itself up and walk away? Where did it go? At that point, the whole speech was crumbling, if she wanted to be honest. She should have just walked up and said, "Hey, I've got a lawsuit. I see y'all spending money. Where's mine?" That would have at least been clear. But no, we got 12 long minutes of ghost payrolls, wandering sewers, and half-baked grievances. And the crowd wasn't laughing because it was funny. They were laughing because it was sad. This is what happens when ego hijacks the mic. Suddenly, no one is focused on the project anymore. Instead, everyone is trapped listening to phantom paychecks and sewer lines with legs. And she didn't stop there. She pivoted into more random complaints, claiming the village needed money for printing flyers, when the actual issue was just that residents need to move their cars so the street sweeper can do its job. Then she dragged the fire department, demanding fans. After that, lease laws. But instead of making a clear point, she muttered about not wanting to kick people's dogs. Like, what? Who even says that? And then came her mic drop finale after 12 minutes of chaos. Her closing line? Just, "Come on now." That was it. 12 minutes of unfiltered confusion, capped off with a phrase that sounded like she forgot her point halfway through. Thank God, the trustees didn't fall for it. She walked in with that classic crab-in-a-barrel mindset. If I can't have it, nobody else should. That toxic energy that keeps towns stuck, keeps communities from growing, keeps everything in limbo until the loudest complainer gets paid. But Dolton didn't cave. The vote moved forward, and right after, Mayor Jason House made it official. He announced the board had made the right call, not just for optics, but for taxpayers, for legacy, and for the future of the village. And he's right. It was the smart move. The best part? The village isn't even dropping the full payment all at once. They struck a financing deal with Wintrust Bank, basically like a mortgage. The bank covers the purchase, and Dolton pays it down over time. That's strategy. That's fiscal responsibility. And they're not stopping there. They've already got plans to buy and restore another rundown home on the same block. It's all part of building out a historic district to honor the Pope's roots. Because here's the truth. Dolton knows people from around the world will come to see that house. That's not just civic pride, that's economics. Dane Placco, reporting live, confirmed it. This was the right move. And honestly, thank God. Because if you miss out on something this obvious, this much of a blessing, maybe you really do belong in that disappearing sewer she was talking about. But not me. I'm not ghost hunting in storm drains. I'm not chasing phantom paychecks. I still believe in growth. I still believe in progress. And you know what? Mama believes in you. Mama loves you. Peace. Asterisk. Asterisk.